Hello everyone, and welcome to the Biggening Corporation. We are on our 35th episode. Crazy. At some point I might stop saying that that's nuts, but hey, here we are. So today, I think today's focus is primarily going to be about the Roll Center, because they've been driving me bonkers for a while now. Just every time I open up our system administrative center or our player center, I just see all of the unfinished parts, and it is driving me nuts. So we're going to try to figure out what that should look like today for both of them. And I suspect much of it's going to be mostly about planning for the first stretch of the episode. There's a lot of parts to the Business Central Roll Center that I don't know very well. I've never made a headline. I'm unfamiliar with creating the sections for the Roll Center. Almost all of the clients that we work with have moved up from NAV to Business Central with customized Roll Centers already in place, or they were reasonably satisfied with the existing Roll Centers and just wanted some tweaks. So I really haven't, in the current iteration, made one from scratch. So we're going to try to figure some things out with that. One thing that I wanted to make mention of today is yesterday in the process of making the copy company functionality work, I referred to the fact that we can't pass just generic records into a function to then work with, and that is incorrect. I was reminded of that. There is a delightful blog post by Waldo called The Power of Variance from years and years ago at this point. But you can absolutely set a parameter. These days it's not called record variant, it's just straight up variant. It will accept any type of record. And then from that variant you can get the record ref. So I misspoke yesterday in that section. We could take a variable in here. In the way that I want to repopulate this code unit and do the copy company and then supply the database style, it still works just fine for us to do the table number. Otherwise we would have to create record variables for all of the different types. So it's still an incredibly useful pattern to know if you're going to be working with record refs, is to be able to accept different records into variant. This is super helpful for being able to do any number of page handling sort of things. So a worthwhile pattern to review for sure. And in small other news, sometime in the very near future, we are going to have a refactoring episode. Which doesn't sound super exciting, but there is a fantastic talk from Tech Days 2016 I was reminded of today by Waldo, that he and a few others like Vico and Gary, I believe, gave that was talking about the bad habits of developers and the way that we do things and the way that we're used to doing things and some of the stuff that you can do wrong. Like some of it's design pattern aesthetic choices and things like that, and some stuff is genuinely problematic issues. Like I am in the habit of doing what are referred to as collection code units, which are common in the base product, so I know where I got it, but this little like player management code unit, for example, is a collection code unit. I am potentially the vision of this was to have a bunch of different utility functions around player management, but from a longevity and testability perspective, you're really only supposed to have one core method per code unit, so that way you can do discrete testing. This one's not too bad because it only has a couple of functions inside that we are making use of. But if we go into, say, some of the market code units. Let's see, market calculation. Market calculation, we've got a few things. We've got like calculate daily prices. We've got a get market price utility function. We've got a store market price function. There's a lot of different things in here, and that's not really the right way to do things. So it will be interesting for us to have a Refactor episode, and I literally laughed out loud when he shared this little doodle from someone. The only valid measure of code quality, what WTFs per minute. So I'm looking forward to having fun diving into spending an episode going, what were we thinking when we wrote this? How could we do this better? What are some of the bad habits we can fix up? And I know some of them when I did them. That's what a lot of these to-dos are. So we'll take care of that. In Sweden, it's much more common to do fall cleaning than spring cleaning. So I guess since we're coming up on fall, maybe it'll be the first day of fall we do that. So let's use our handy Search the Microsoft Docs Role Center, because there is a great Designing Role Centers page. And the reason I say it's great is because it provides a really useful breakdown section here of what are the different components and what are they, and what do they do, I should say. So for example, if we wanted to have a nice little section of these wide pieces here, what are they called? Well, as it turns out, down here they are called wide data queues, and that is a queue group control, and you set the layout property to wide. Not too complicated, not too simple, not too difficult to set up and establish. But other things like the headlines, that's a little bit more of a mystery to me, and it seems like they've got some logic behind this. And this, I think, will be something we're going to probably develop a lot over time, as to like what are the things that a player or a system administrator needs to kind of pop up as news on the Role Center and cycle through. So whenever we're thinking about the Role Center and how users are going to use the system, I generally go back to the documents. So if you give me one sec, I'll bring up our original document here. So we know that the player, their primary focus is going to be about their wealth. That's the way they win seasons, for example. And then there are a few different pieces to how that can work. So what other things would be valuable for a player? So we're going to digital whiteboard a little, because why not? So we know first and foremost that the player cares about wealth. That's the big one. Then we might want to see perhaps a wealth trend or something like that. Perhaps a chart over time. That might be good. So that way they can kind of see, for example, a good wide queue group might be net change 7. Well, game days go pretty quick, so we'll say 30 game days. Sure. Okay, that's useful info. They might want a locations section that shows the stock levels. We might want to see power usage trend, perhaps something along those lines. Yeah, okay. We're gonna have to figure out what some of the other pieces that they might want to see could be. Let's see. I like the idea in our default role center. If we go back, let's check out sales order processor. Nope, not company. Sales order processor, which all of these are getting renamed in the fall release this year. It's a good thing, I think. Role centers are about to get a whole bunch of love in the next release. So, because some of them are not real. They're just, they change the context of the headers, and it's easy to pick a wrong role center. So they're tidying things up. We have some functionality that maybe we can build off of, like my items. I like my items. I don't know if we can modify this. I don't actually know. Can we extend my items? Let's take a look. Let's see what's possible, because I know it'd be really cool to extend that. Let's see. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Basically, my items. Alright. Sure. And all we're going to do is we're going to add a layout and a var for the moment. Var market price. We might want to at some point show something else, but add last field market price. Oh, yeah. Hey, dingbat, you have to say add last to what? To control one? Yes. Every once in a while, you'll get a page where they haven't named anything. If that's the case, you just have to know that, for example, I'm adding something to a list. These are the two controls available, and one of them is a repeater. So, okay, we're going to add something to a control here. And we'll add our market price. And application area equals all. Yeah, fall. It's on the mind. I'm just curious to see, is it possible for us to tweak the my items? Because if so, then we should add some cool market price info to that little widget. And have that be a component to our role center, for sure. Let's see. We'll probably want to look through a couple of these other role centers, see if there's anything else that we might need to know. So we'll see. And that's still chugging along in the background. I guess some of the stuff that we need to think about from the role center is all the stuff that should be in a role center falls into some number of categories. It's things to know, like to keep an eye on, monitoring. It is things to act on. For example, if these are delayed, theoretically the user should act on them. And then things to quickly do. So, for example, here we've got our actions where we can just jump into immediately creating a sales order. So a lot of the things that are on a role center fall into these categories, and it helps a little bit to think about the things a player needs to know and the things that players need to act on, and the things that the players will quickly need to do. So we were starting to unstructured do that. So we know wealth. Let's not do tabs; those are giant. Location, info, item, pricing, market, info. Yeah, that seems good. Things to act on would be, for example, you could very easily get yourself in a situation where your logistics bots are not keeping up. So delayed shipments is totally a valuable thing, and so is delayed receipts. Both of those would be things that you go, oh crud, maybe we need to get some more logistics bots, we need to get some more locations. That makes total sense. Things to quickly do include buying new bots, and we of course want to buy new locations, manage research, manage items. Some of these things that quickly do also fall into the category of this little ribbon up top, not necessarily just actions. So, for example, these to me are those little actions, whereas these ones might be our top little ribbon. Makes perfect sense. Okay. I mean, that's mostly, things to know. Season standings. Where are you in the competition, for example? That would be good to know. Yep. Okay. Cool. Let's take a quick look and see if our My Items section can be extended via page extension. It didn't tell us no. Alright. Nice. Okay. So yeah, My Items. Good stuff. We can make use of that. And that way the player can have the control over which items do they want to have keeping an eye on. That makes sense. Well, that's nice. That also affects the manage version of the same. So you can see the market price info here. Nice. Alright. We'll probably tidy this up a little bit and then add some more stuff to it, but that's under the category of things to know. Okay. Cool. So yeah, structuring this out a little bit, we want to see a chart part trending. We want to see also a wide queue showing balance. We wanted to see list of location, list and stocks of the different items. Perfect. And let's see, season standings. I mean, honestly, what I would really like to do is season standings should be like a Power BI report, but I don't think we're there yet. Be a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do when we get to play with Power BI inside of BC. I'm not tied to a domain on this machine, and therefore I am not in Azure Active Directory, so I might not be able to do that. We'll figure it out. So we'll probably do a chart part for this as well, because that could be cool. I don't know in the modern client how to build these, so we're gonna have a figuring out episode on that. Okay, cool. Other things to know. I'm mainly trying to think of, is there a useful way for a player to see, are the bots being useful? Activity level versus idle. For example, are there lots of sales bots that are being idle because of the fact that there's nothing for them to do? So let's take a look at our sales bots. So we have a situation up in here in the looping through of things. For example, this is a result text that at the moment is hard coded. These should all be turned into messages. They're mostly getting there, but they're not all there. It's part of Refactor Day. We have a situation where it is possible that based on this, the bot might not do anything. That makes sense? Yeah. So based on these settings, this bot might be idle. We don't have any way to capture that information. So let's see, if we go to the activity log for the bots, we can see a description, but not like a type. Is this working, idling, or erroring? So it would probably be a good idea to get something into the activity log that flags the different message types, so that we can queue up our bot info. We might want a wide queue showing idling bots, and also a wide queue showing erroring boards. Okay, yeah, that seems good. And that would always be, I'm thinking there's a desire to say only show the previous day, like if they've idled for the previous day, but the problem is that game days are only 15 minutes long. So we may need to kind of adjust and fiddle with how do we want to consider the horizon of this. Do we want idling bots in the past game week, and that's only about 2 hours of real lifetime, or do we want longer? Which is why up above, I was thinking wealth trending should be probably over 30 days. Do we really want those to be wide queues? Let's go look at those again, because I think we can support 3 or 4. The downside to going too crazy with the wide queues is that it'll look a little weird on mobile. And after all, a big part of this, the goal is to be mobile friendly, particularly. So let's see here. Presuming it loads sometime today. Excellent. Alright, so in this design, probably maybe as many as 4 will fit comfortably in that layout. Let's see if that's the case. And when we go to the phone mode, how does that render? Because that's a big part of what we're thinking about too. So interestingly, when we look at this, when we look at this in phone mode, I don't see those wide queues at all. What? For real? Sales quotes open, sales orders open. If we switch it up to phone, okay, they collapse to regular queues. Well, that's funky. Do they do the same on tablet? Yeah, they collapse to regular queues. So they just render different depending on your platform. Huh. Okay. Well, that's cool. All right. We don't have to stress how they'll render on the different devices. They take care of that neatly for us. But here on our web client, we see them as the wide queues. All right, I like it. Cool. So yeah, let's do this. I would say probably in the preceding 8 hours, which that works out to 40 game days. No. I am tired. Wowzers. Alright. Anyways, so we'll do it for some specified period of time. We may... Oh. I think my numlock was messing with me. Yeah. Okay. So we'll probably give players some control over that in the near future. We'll do some player settings or something like that, so they can decide how often do they want to see this trend, and that's fine. Not an urgent thing. Okay, I rolled all this in. We'll probably have a power usage. I don't want to go too crazy with parts. I don't think the season standing should be a chart. It should be a list. So that way we can more easily display some info. And then this can be a chart. Okay. That sounds good. Cool. I mean, this doesn't necessarily give us the top deck structure of what do we want to have up here in what do we want to refer to this? Once upon a time, I would have called this the ribbon. What are we calling it lately? Let's see, 1 and 2. So navigation menu is the top one, and navigation bar is the second. And then we have, okay, so navigation menu, navigation bar, and actions, navigation actions, action bar. There we go. Okay, sure. And if we scrunch that, that folds back up. There we go. Nice and tidy. Okay, but that gives us a lot of good info. So the things that are queues, we know that that is stuff we need to know on a role center. So we need activities for all of those, or flow fields on our activities panel for that. I'm inclined, as part of this bot info, I'm debating on should we give the player a nice stack to see all of the different bot types. Because when we log in right now as our player to our test company, we see that we've got 13 bots active at the moment. Should we do a count per bot type? Is that relevant? Is that something a player would want to see? Or do we want to give them a nice little list based on the different bot types? So that way, let's do this because it's a good example of a more complicated activities pane for the Role Center, where we're going to do something programmatic, because we want to have this by counts by type. Whoa, caps lock. Hello. Me and my keyboard aren't friends today. Alright. But this gives us a lot of useful pieces that we're going to need. Now, I don't know about designing charts, but I do know about lists and queues. So we're going to have this be our target for the remainder of the episode. We're going to create at least the space and the structure for all this. And we'll start here today with the player role center. And we'll see how many we can get through, and then we might look at charts for the role center, because I don't know doodly about charts. So that'll be fun to stumble through. I hope it's of value to those of you who are watching along when I don't know how to do something and we stumble through it on camera. I don't actually know. I've never actually received any feedback from anybody to say, hey, maybe stick to the stuff you know, or wow, gee, it's actually really valuable to see someone else struggling with this, because now I get it better. Like, I have no idea. Okay. We are going to spend a little time working on our queue for the player company, which I wish, if anyone knows if there's a cool collapse command to like fold up all this layer, that would be really helpful. Alright, so we have our player activities, which is just a generic single little card part at the moment. It's this. So that is coming from the queue table. Now, all of the things on our list that are going to be queue based can all live on this one table. We're not going to need these for any other potential role centers. We just have the two. So oftentimes the queue tables are grouped instead by functional areas. So you'd see this in the base product, like financials versus sales versus purchasing. And that's because they're utilized in different areas of the system. And after all, card parts can only be tied to, or can only easily be tied to a single table. So often the design of the queue tables is tied to what activities should that display. But here and there, sometimes you might have two different activities pages tied to the same queue table. We're going to probably... let's see. I think, honestly, we'll probably have much of the fields on this single table, and we'll probably design a few different activity panels. The reason we're going to need to create them in different pages, if we go back, and we're going to go back and forth a lot between the different role centers and companies here. It's just a thing. Sorry. The reason that we're going to have those be different activities is because if we want the queue groups to lay out like this, have a list and have more queues, these need to be different parts that are grouped together at the same level. So you can't, within one object, have all of this section with these groups up top, then include a list, then include this. That will make it not render correctly, and it will definitely not render correctly in the mobile device, because what it does is when we're on the phone, inspect, when we go to the phone mode, let's go here. Each of the pages that is at the top level of the role center gets rendered down here at the bottom as different buttons. So you can see that the My Customers list is a separate section. And the self-service, which was to the right of the My Customers, gets rendered here on this first area. So all of the queue groups will end up clumped together on the home screen, and then the different list parts will get their own sections. List part versus chart parts. So we've got a reasonable good list where we've only got a couple of charts. I think we have 3 lists, so we'll see how the UI copes with having 3 different lists through here. I don't actually know, so we'll find out. And apologies, I still have my Outlook open, so bling in the background. Okay. Alright, close that up, and there we are. Alright, so we have we just have a couple of things on our player queue table for now. Now, the nice thing about flow fields is that they will only calculate if you include them on the page. If you don't include them on the page as a field, you have to manually calculate them. This means that we could create this one queue table to have 100 different flow fields on it, and if an activities panel only includes 2 of them, it's not calculating the other 98, as far as I know. So that's a pretty useful thing for us. So stuff we're going to need to add is we know we need the wealth balance. We need actually we have more than 3 lists. Ooh. That could get to be an interesting thing, because we have to add, this is at the queue level, not the page, so we also need bots idle and erroring. We are going to need a way of figuring out which shipments are getting delayed, and we're going to need to figure out if any receipts are getting delayed. So those will be a little bit interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's not too bad. Alright, so one of the things that we are going to want, the player will really need to know if bots are idle, because that means something in their chain is misbalanced. We have to update the dispatcher to handle that, because the way we're calling these code units right now, if they run, then they log the activity, and they just pass along the result text. If they don't run, they log the error. Nice and simple, but it only allows for a text result. So what we need to do is we need some way of saying what was the type of activity. And this is leaning me towards doing a little parameter table, honestly. Because when we start to pass around multiple values and handle things in different ways, if we've got one and then we go, oh, we need two, what are the odds that at some point we're going to go, oh, now we need three? And we could just do another little function where we go into each code unit and get the result type and return some sort of option or enum or whatever have you, and just add another function parameter. But eventually your parameter calls start to get a little crazy. So the way you handle that is instead build a buffery table type thing, just a temporary table, and pass that in as an argument, just nice var, set all the values, and then when you get it back, you just pass it back. Nice and simple. And if you decide, say for example, we some point in time add a new type of information that we want to log to the activity table, but only for research bots, well, that's fine. We only set that in that table, and then when we handle the logging, we go, if type is research, then do this extra other thing. And none of the footprints of all the other calls of that same function will care. So let's do a nice little argument table for that. So we're going to call this in this folder a BCS dispatch result. Sure. And this is always going to be used as a temporary, so we don't, I think, even need to set a primary key, which raises a small refactor thing I'll mention in a moment. Okay, so we know that we're passing back a result text of 200. So let's call it action type, sure. And this will be an option. We could do an enum so that it's extensible. Gosh darn it. Yeah. I didn't really want to do an enum, but extensibility, man. Gotta do it. BCS bot result type. Values are I always like to do blank first. Activity, sure, why not? Activity, idle, error, sure, that sounds good. Finish. Okay, there we go. We now have a BCS bot result type. Cool. Now, how cool is this extension about coping with me making up things on the fly? Not so cool. That's fair. It probably loads the enum types when you start, so I'm going to just say BCS bot type, and that way I can throw in the result there afterwards. Okay, cool. I don't think we need anything else on that. And this is going to be enum BCS bot result type. Ta-da! Alright, there we go. So now in our dispatcher, we are going to, instead of getting a result text, we are going to do a var of the bot result type. No, bot result. Let's call it that. Although I think we called it dispatch result, didn't we? Dispatch result. Yeah. Let's be consistent so we're not breaking our brains. Okay, and this is going to be a temporary record. So now, here in our bot activity log. It's in fact the dispatch result.result text. Simple and easy. And now we have lots of errors. Cool. That's perfectly fine. So now we can just borrow this definition. We'll pop that up into our handle bots of type function. Cool. Semicolons help. And now we can instead do this little log activity call, and we're going to create a new function. Instead of get result text, we are going to do get result and pass a dispatch result. So now we can do the rare for me, find and replace right in Visual Studio Code, get result text. It's get result text blank to be replaced by get result with our parameters. There we go, 1 of 7. That's more like it. Okay, alright. Now we should be getting all these errors because after all, none of those code units have this function. That makes perfect sense. You'll notice that I don't, in the process of any of this code here, I'm not clearing that dispatch result. That is perfectly okay. We don't have to. We are going to set those values and we can clear them right in the bot calls here. So for all of these code units, we should have a get result function that takes this dispatch result, which we will steal once to create. We can get rid of get result text entirely. Get result now takes a parameter, and this takes a var. Okay, so when get dispatch result is called in, we will clear it, just so that way the values are as empty as we can make them. And now we could leave in place, for example, this assembly bot, which is a type that doesn't do anything right now. We could just set the dispatch result to equal result text and shim that in for now, which I think I will, to be honest with you. Result text. Because this is a var and is temporary, and therefore we don't actually have to do insert or modify on this. We just set the value and pass it back, I'm pretty sure. Let's find out. So for our other bots that are not implemented yet, this little function call footprint will be just fine. Manufacturing is not implemented yet. Marketing is, research is, actually most of them are. Nice. Okay, so we now have to refactor the bots that do return something to actually give us some sort of useful thing. And the easiest way for us to figure this out is blam. We'll have a nice explosion of where this is used. Okay. So for the code units where we are returning a value, and I realize we're way off of planning a role center, but the only way we could potentially get the information we need for the role center is adding it to this one, so that makes sense. So the only way that we can handle the result text in a smart way is we need a version of this dispatch result at the global level that we can set while it's running what actually happened. Okay, I'm okay with that. So, oops, we need a, let's call this my result, so that way we know what's what. Okay, and what we will do is my result.result text. We'll pass that in here, so that's easy enough. Okay, so let's look at our first case here. if we're unassigned, then my result, oh, you know what would be good is let's create ourselves a new little set of template functions. Procedure set idle result. New text. Okay. Yeah, me and my keyboard are not friends today. Okay, that's fine. Happens to all of us. Let's see, my result, action type is equal to BCS, well, action type idle, and my result dot result text is equal to the new text. And that way we can just replace idle calls with set idle result, and that'll slide nicely in. And we will do the same for set activity result. It's a little bit duplicatey, but I'm okay with that. It's not often that I'm okay with copy paste code, but in this case I think we're alright. Alright, and I think that'll work okay. And now the cool little thing that we're gonna do is up at the top, in case we fail, the default action type that we will return is going to be error. And something else has to explicitly happen to clarify that we did not error out. So that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Here I was starting to do individual assignment. That's daft. I would just do dispatch result.transfer fields from our my result. There we go. That way it's future proofed. We can add fields to it and who cares. Okay. And for parity's sake, just in case, we are going to have a set error result. So is this absolutely the best way? Like having these three different functions for these enums? No. So should we be doing it? No. I hate when I decide partway through, should I really be making this code ugly? No. We can just take an enum as a parameter. That's fine. It will work just fine. It's not going to make our function call crazy long or anything. So we'll deal with it. Okay, so up here we have this error situation. This is my result equals I'm not assigned. That's not really an error, it's an idle. And as we can see, it comes on down, it does nothing. So we're not in an error state, we don't throw any error, but we do want to set result to equal the unassigned bot message. I missed that we can have potentially the mouse over tooltip tell you what it says. Okay, and so it says not assigned. We don't have to pass any parameters into a string subs number or anything. That's cool. And then we do BCS. I thought now I'm going a little crazy. I thought we would need to how do we pass an enum as a param? I'm sure I've done it. Okay. well, let's do this since I'm not sure what's what and what's going on here. My result dot action type, and this is an idle, because I know that's at least compatible. There we go. Okay, so now we have a nice little idle example. Cool. And then no work available message is another idle. Okay, cool. So we'll copy this down to here, except we'll change our message. And again, there's no string subs hanging out, so nice and simple. Now, in this case, we have an operation success. So instead of the idle message type, we are going to do activity message type. And for our activity, we will pass in what the message was. There we go. All right. So in total, now if you ever, like me, and you're now like 6 modifications deep and you're going, where was I? Hit save and take a look at your bot in the list for source control, and you will see these are all the changes we made. Nice and simple. Just telling folks in case they don't know. So we have changed the get result procedure, added a set result procedure, and we needed a new var that was the dispatch type. And then we simply update the action calls. I did at the beginning of the function default the action type to error instead of blank. I'm not sure I need to do that, so let's scrap that. If something goes wrong, we specifically want to give a message about what went wrong, so we'll just do that. It's fine. Okay, so that takes care of that bot type, and we've got marketing up next. I don't think we have too many. Let's save everything here. We've got a lot going on. Dispatcher still in error state, but that's okay. We had just done inventory basics, so we will copy our functions from that. And we can close up the marketing. No, we need marketing. Manufacturing we've done. Yeah, because that's a placeholder, so that's okay that it's the old style, or the not so useful style. That's fine. Alright, so there we go. Now we've got our events, and we set result text where... Ah, okay. I was sitting here going, why aren't we getting any errors? I replaced it. I did not. It's up here. Okay, so... So this bot is doing stuff, but we never updated the message to say that it was successful. Okay. That's weird. Alright. Oh, yeah, that's what that to-do is about. Okay. Well, we still will want to, in the future, give useful info. So, we are going to set result. I researched the market. Sure. I'm going to just leave that checkbox in place. That is perfectly fine for now. And we're going to use my result, action type, activity. Something happened. Sure. Good enough. Marketing bot, check. Purchasing bot. You're going to have a lot more in purchasing bot, I'm afraid. Bwam. Alright. So, we replaced... Oh, yeah. Let's check here. Do we have the get result? Get result text. That is right here. Cool. If you're ever looking for a function, the outline panel in your bottom left is your friend. So, okay, so now we have 3 variable references to the result that all need to be replaced. In this case, we have an idle situation where the maximum orders are reached. We have an idle situation where no orders are needed, and then we have an activity section. So, okay, not too crazy. Set result on this, and we can simply bam. And now we do our myResult.actionType idle. That one's easy. And then we have set result on this, and we are once again myResult active action type idle. There we go. And finally, we have an actual successful run of this bot. myResult action type. Cool. Alright, and theoretically there should be also a response here that they are trying to get something done there. Activity for message about phishing. Because the purchase bots, when they're not assigned to something, will try to find new suppliers. So a little bit of a hybrid bot, but otherwise we are done with that one. Research, this one's a little bit simpler of a bot. Okay, and same as before, set result. We could theoretically do a find and replace, but these are a little tougher to do that with. So myResult action type, and this is activity. Done, sorted. Okay, and there we go. Nice thing here is that we had to change all of the bot code units, and nice and simple, they're all marked with M if they're modified, so we know which ones still need to be done. Okay, so let's see, we need to replace this function, we need to find the getResultText function, kill that off. Whip. Okay, now we've got this is technically an idle state situation. There's nothing for this sales bot to sell to any of the customers at the price point that we want them to, so that's an idle situation. So we set the result on this to myResult.actionType and idle. So there we go. And with two more here, we're about to be done, and then we'll have more info than we ever did about our bots idling. Are they busy? What's my bot army up to? Because theoretically, you know, players could have hundreds of these things, and it would be really good to see which ones are causing trouble, which ones are having trouble, what's not working. And this will help immensely for that. So set result on this, and this is an idle condition as well. myResult action type idle. There we go. We save that, and that should have updated this. Oh, I see. Log activity. Oh, jeez. I'm passing a var into the function, and this is expecting that same var as a parameter, but this function doesn't return that var, it just gets that var. So in fact, all of these need to be reworked to pass in the var after we call it. That's all. I was like sitting here staring at it going, what? They both take this parameter. I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, the problem is that you don't see the problem. Okay. one of my challenging bits as a streamer, just while we're chatting along here, one of my challenging bits as a streamer is not letting the things that I watch influence how I then present. I watch a lot of like gaming videos in the background and whatnot, and every once in a while during the day I'll watch a whole string of videos from the same YouTuber, and it's very, very difficult on those days where I've been hearing the same style of speech all day to not emulate it, to use my own natural speaking tones. Usually this is fine. Every once in a while it is a crazy YouTuber, and that is hard not to let sneak its way into my vocabulary. Okay, so we've got this new bot dispatch system, but we haven't actually changed the activity log to have that new extra bit of info here. We've got the bot type. We don't have the field for the activity type. So let's get that crammed in here. Activity type, and this is an enum of a BCS bot result type. There we go. All of our old data is going to just have the blank, so we'll know what's what. But now, finally, half hour later, we have the ability to do some flow fields against idling bots and erroring out bots more specifically. And with that drill down, the player will be able to jump straight to the bots that are causing the errors and the idles. So that's pretty useful. And we'll have to look at that list of also, let's see, if we go, this bot list will be empty, but let's just take a look anyways. What I would like to do then is we'll add a new status column here for this bot to say last status. Errored or whatever have you, and we'll also add a nice priority navigation on error log that'll jump right to the bot error log. Then we might override the drill down on the last status that if type is errored, open the error log, and if the last status is not errored, to open just their activity log. That way it's a real simple way for the players to manage that. But I think that is going to be tomorrow. We have now all of the infrastructure we need to be able to create the relevant lists, which we'll power through probably in the first 10-15 minutes tomorrow. At least the basic info. We'll probably add more columns over time. And then we'll get the wide queues all set up on our role center and finish up the player role center overall tomorrow. We'll see how far we get tomorrow. And then chart parts. I'm a little leery about chart parts. We're gonna have to figure that one out together, because that's a bit different. So, okay, well, we achieved our primary goal today, which is we sketched out the role center. We realized there was a couple of pieces of info that we were not going to be able to gather because of the underlying data just was not there. So we fixed the underlying data not there. And tomorrow's goal will be completing the player role center, at least in a general framework. So, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone.